Now turn the time over to our group for the communication.
Our dearest Father in heaven, as we come before thee today, we are grateful for this beautiful spring day and the warm weather that has returned to us. We ask, Father, that you would watch over this meeting and help those to make the right decisions for all the constituents of Eddy County. Father, we pray that those who seek to do evil upon our country, that call evil good and good evil, we ask, Father, that you will deliver us from that and protect our children. Please protect our troops and our sheriff's department and all of those who serve. These things we ask, Father, in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Mr. County Manager.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. We have not received any written public comments prior to the meeting. Are there any public comments in the audience this morning? Seeing none, Mr. Chairman, I suggest we move on to the retirement presentations. We have 4. Our first one, we'd like to recognize Judy Pressett. She's not here, but she has received her plaque, but I think we should just recognize her 31 years and 2 months. Next we have, and I don't know if you want to present to them, Mr. Chairman, but Salre Salcido from detention, 20 years and 10 months.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Sal.
That's impressive.
I'm going to let you present that because that's outstanding.
Congratulations.
Thanks for the opportunity and the honor of serving you, and I feel I've done my best to serve you and being loyal and everything. I appreciate it. It's been a great family, and kind of gonna miss you.
You don't have to leave.
You'll get over
I
that.
thought about that. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. It means a lot to me to accomplish this. So.
Thank you. Next, we have James B. Parker from the Sheriff's Department, 23 years and 8 months.
We do? You're all clean. I'm clean. Clean cut. Love you, man.
Thank you, sir.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
So that race said most of it. It's been a long time coming. I've seen a lot of commissioners and sheriffs come and go, and employees as well. It was fun. Enjoyed the heck out of it. Oh, had a wonderful day.
And then we have Danielle Valescas, detention, 5 years, 10 months.
Well, I've been here just 5 years, but it's one of the most beautiful years I had with you guys, and I really enjoyed it. And I thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Do you want to do a group? Yeah, so maybe if they could take a short break and have the commissioners and those retirees, we'll get a photo in the lobby over here. Memorialize it.
I don't know if they were lying or the detention has just worked their brains. Because I can't imagine working there that long.
So the more senior crew, I think, understand. new crew that don't have the same
Oh, yeah.
You're ready, aren't you?
mental control, behavior.
Now let me
Oh,
see.
yeah.
That's a challenge.
Okay, I'll let you be there.
Thank you so much.
As long as you don't act it up.
Yes. Especially in this environment.
Absolutely right.
Since when?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Old? No, I'm fine.
You're younger than me.
You're a liar.
Do what?
You're a liar.
See, I keep telling him he's younger than me. He always calls me young woman or something. I said,
For a long time, I was on that rough road.
we
Right?
all were at that era. Did you have fun with the kids for Easter?
Oh, yeah. We did too much. I had to come back to work to rest. That's how we were too busy.
Isn't that terrible?
It was terrible. It really was. I was worthless yesterday.
Does that say we don't work as hard at work, or the kids
Oh,
are
it means
just
I
that
didn't,
much?
yeah, the kids are just that much. We had probably close to 30 at our house.
Oh, my Lord have mercy.
I
Yeah,
didn't come to work that day.
see?
Thank you.
Easter.
I said, I'm over. It's time for me to go to work.
Yeah,
And your daughters, what about you?
Made it back with all the commissioners.
right? There were more, and probably a little more than half were kids.
That's great. All commissioners have returned. No one
Glad they
scampered
came back.
off.
Right?
Nobody left.
You always hate to let them go, right?
The next item on the agenda, Mr. Chairman, is the annual report to commission from the assessor, Ms. Gemma Ferguson.
Good morning, Commissioners. And I brought with me my Chief Deputy, Melissa Washburn. So, thank goodness she's here. I know y'all received this earlier. I think one of the most interesting things is that I had the mappers check, and Eddy County only has 17.62% of private land. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, if we're one of those states that had 100% private, we'd need the whole building for our office. So, but it's, it's interesting that we make as much money as we do considering the private, but of course we also make money on the other. I know when I was in here in January for my reappraisal report, I thought that we would have a decrease in some categories. And it didn't happen except in the local business personal property. We were down 17 mil. But the most interesting was state assessed. Right before we started doing the report, we got in a whole lot of CABs. They're called Central Assessed Bureau sheets that are showing the valuation of state assessed properties. And these are ones, though, that we usually get them in like September or midsummer, somewhere like that. But these are ones that were done, that were all protests or omitteds that they found or something. And it's funny because we got 500 million just that one day. So, yeah, and it's funny, you think, I knew we were going to be ahead in several categories, but when that 500 million came in, it's like, that's $500 million any way you look at it. When you start working in zeros, it's just adding more zeros. And it's just insane when you go from millions to billions. So last year we did actually grow 633 million. Yeah, so that's a lot of money. Residential land was up by 9 mil. Res improvements 59. Non-res land 4 million. Non-res improvements 31 million. Manufactured homes 2 million. And livestock, I told you we'd be going down in value. We didn't go down in value, but we did go down in the number of accounts we had from 932 to 857. And then, like I said, state assessed went crazy. And then ag land is fine too. So that's a big change for 1 year. Hopefully, that's great for the county. The rest of it is just more or less what our staff does, how reappraisal, it's always our vein because, I've got a year and a half left and we still will not finish the complete rotation to have the whole county reappraised. Just never happens. Vehicles, we usually buy one out of our 1% money. Lori sent me an email today. She wants our old one that we're going to get rid of already, so you got it, Lori. Sales ratio study is in there, it's attached. The state does the sales ratio study. Software, we're still with Tyler, talking about growth. Deeds, it was kind of interesting because I wasn't sure how many, the change in deeds, because of COVID and everything went down and everything. all that kind of thing. But we're only down 500 deeds for the whole county. That's, that's not bad. We still had, though, 190 subdivisions. That's more than last year. And boundary surveys, more than last year.
And property's still moving.
Yeah, definitely. Lots of sales. Yeah, and that's down there below too, that's what those deeds are mostly, are mostly sales. I mean, it's not just people changing names on properties. It's just a lot of sales still. Under permits, we split those out between the state, Carlsbad and Artesia. And the state number just is not correct. I know that we had a whole lot more state projects, but with the state working from home, they just didn't they weren't as efficient as sending out their information as they were the previous year. Next year it'll be up again, because we had more than that. So the drop in Artesia permits was 13% and Carlsbad 12%. Still not bad considering what all's going on. And PTD is going to do their evaluation for my office. We've already sent them all the information that they need. So everything's going to be done. Just we send them.
Electronically.
Yeah.
They went to a new electronic format to do our reviews and our evaluations, so.
We had to upload everything to them. So it's a more efficient way for them, I'm sure. The person we're dealing with is out of the PTD office in Las Cruces. And I've met her personally before, but we've been talking on the phone a lot lately. So, but everything will go well, I'm sure, because we've already sent most of it and haven't heard from her yet. So, any questions?
I think it's not a question, it's a comment and a compliment. I think the statistics show the great effort that the assessor's office, as well as some of the other departments in the county, made this past year, right? A year ago, we were locked down, but the county offices remained open. The services were always available. And I think the statistics that you showed from the assessor's office represent that open for business approach. They go from the assessor's office to the clerk's office and then back to the treasurer's office, right?
It starts with Don.
Yeah, and that doesn't happen unless the county's open for business. And so, the commission's direction about services and meeting the community's needs, I just say thank you very much for what your team does, and it's represented in the numbers and the improvements in the tax value.
We have great staff.
Yeah.
I mean, all of them.
And,
Melissa.
and our challenges are here now. The NOVs just went out yesterday, so
Yeah,
some of you may have already received them. I received mine yesterday.
I did.
The protests are going to be huge this year because of COVID last year. We anticipate our biggest is going to be the hotels and the restaurants. Sad to say it's all over the entire world, not just the U.S., but the whole world. So we're prepared for that. Our appraisers have taken some classes on the protests with those two specific industries. So we're hoping that we can do a nice transition with that and come to a happy medium with them. As you know now, when you drive downtown, the hotels are full. The new hotels are full.
All of them.
So that's really good for Carlsbad. But
And then yesterday or day before, the governor announced a relief on gross receipt taxes for some of those businesses for a 90-day window, I think, through the end of July, I believe. So again, trying to help balance the business, but values are values. So.
And you're supposed to look at it, like for restaurants and especially hotels, a 3-year average. But that's hard for them to want to give you that, all their numbers. And there's all sorts of numbers that they use, and it's, you can play lots of games with numbers.
It's almost like they'd have a high and a low and then one in the middle, right? Because
Right.
2019,
Right.
would have been the high, 2020 would have been the low, so 2018.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, because we had people, even before they rendered, calling to see, when are we going to be able to protest? I mean,
And it's a justifiable question because I can tell you during COVID, on the drive-in, I live out south and I pass many hotels. And any given day, we may have counted 8 cars in the parking lot during COVID. You know, she shut the hotels down. We had some dispensation because some of our employees that work in the oil field were living in those hotels. But other than that, they had no business. So our staff is ready for that. I hope that it's going to go as smooth as I would like for it to go. It's going to be a challenge, though.
especially for the appraisers, because they have to take all those phone calls. We already had one yesterday. They went out and looked at a personal guy, and they went out and looked at his shop because we had it on incorrectly. Well, it wasn't incorrectly. He just wasn't using it as it was more of a storeroom than a full-fledged shop. So we had to change that. And it's, okay, it's like one protest done. Yay. 99 to go, no doubt.
So speaking of commercial property, the commercial property market's been devalued pretty significantly. You know, properties that were leasing for $20,000 or whatever in 2019, those have all been negotiated back to, you know, 12 or 14,000. How do you anticipate valuing those going forward for those customers?
We look at recent sales, mostly sales. I mean, that's because that's.
Just use a comparable, not going off lease.
But we also can request income statements and do it by income. We can do sales, cost, or income, or the three combined, and so that's what we do.
The hotels are definitely probably going to go off of sales.
Okay.
By how many people stayed. We look at their
income,
yeah. We were looking at their income. You know what the price of the hotel was. You know the hotels dropped down to $70.
So forgive my ignorance, but do you use those same metrics every year or just in odd years?
Every year.
I mean, so next year if hotels were full, you can just go back and use the same metric and say, okay, hey, it's.
You know how in residential property we can only increase the value 3%, even though houses are, you all know houses keep growing in value. But commercial, we can change. You know, we had, like I said, last couple of years ago, we had a piece down in Otis that sold 5 times, like this 10-acre tract. It went from like 20 to 50 to 100, So we can change commercial as much as we want. But so if you're looking at one of our appraisers one year did the highway towards the El Paso Highway. And she went and changed all those land values because the land values went up. But we don't have a lot of time to go through every year and get all of the land values changed for every commercial piece of property. So it's
Unless they change hands, it doesn't.
Right.
Typically.
Exactly, yeah. Same on houses. If a house sells that was on the books for $50,000 and now it's worth $100,000, then we can go ahead and increase it back to the market price.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Short education there.
Anything?
Anybody else have any questions? Sorry, I was just asking.
No,
Thank you very much.
You're welcome to visit us anytime if you have questions.
Yeah. Oh, you know our number. Thanks.
Thank you.
Glad you guys are staying busy.
Mr. Chairman, let's move to the trailing agenda. And item number 1A is commission meeting minutes approvals for March 16.
Okay. Do you have any comments or questions on commission meeting minutes? No? I'll entertain a motion that we approve commission meeting minutes for March 16, 2021.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion is second. Please call for the vote.
Beard,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Cordova. Yes. Henry,
Abstain?
McCutcheon.
Yes. Expense approval for March, motion, yeah. We're good, right? Yeah. So expense approval report, March 2021. Anything there? Okay. No questions or comments on that one? Having none, I'll entertain a motion that we approve expense approval report for March 2021.
So moved.
Second?
Motion is second. Please call for the vote.
Beard,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Cordova. Yes. Henry,
Yes.
McCutcheon.
Yes. Okay.
You have in your packet the treasurer's report for February 2020, which is information. Oh, geez.
Gotta do peak.
Man, I already checked that.
Yeah. All right.
Sorry.
Got a good pen over there.
I do.
All right. So do we have any questions or comments for P card approval February? I'll entertain a motion that we approve purchase card approval report February 2021.
I'll make that motion.
I second.
Motion is second. Please call for the vote.
Beard,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Cordova. Yes. Henry.
Yes.
McCutcheon.
Yes. Mr. County Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You have in your packet the February treasurer's report from the treasurer's office for your information. The next item on the agenda is the February 2021 revenue report from Finance Director, Ms. Roberta Smith.
Hi, Roberta.
Good morning. Morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. For they gave me control of this.
Ooh.
Okay. For the February 2021 revenue report, we did see an increase in our GRT. We collected $1.2 million, a little over $1.2 million, which is the highest since the beginning of the fiscal year. Even though we're still down about 33% from last fiscal year in GRT, I do expect us still to, if not break even, a little bit higher, but we won't have a high surplus like we did in the past years for GRT. We did have quite a bit, I think it was 70 million in taxable gross receipts increase from the prior month. And that was mainly due to, according to the RP80 report from the state, it was mainly due to mining, wholesale and retail manufacturing. And next month for the March's revenue report, you will see quite a bit of increase in our GRT, probably about an $800,000 increase on this line item next month. Will be close to probably $2 million. And that's because we moved the indigent 1/8 and the 1/12 into the general fund. And that was due to the de-earmarking of the GRT. For oil and gas, again, we also collected a higher number. We collected $2.2 million. And this was, of course, for February, so we're talking about November's business activity. So that was about 12.6 million barrels per oil and about $38.50 for the price. Since then, the price, as you know, has gone up every single month, so I expect that number to go up for the remainder of the fiscal year. With that being said, we're already at about 105% of our oil and gas revenue, so I expect us to finish around $26 million for oil and gas overall. That being said, I'll stand for any questions.
I told you so. It's the look.
Don't encourage him.
Have any questions for Roberta? Okay. I guess we're in good shape.
We need to approve the revenue report, Mr. Chairman.
Entertain a motion that we approve February 2021 revenue report. Second. Motion second. Please call for the vote.
Beard,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Cordova. Yes. Henry.
Yes.
McCutcheon.
Yes.
The next item is our budget versus actual for February revenue and expenses. And again, Ms. Roberta Smith.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, so as you see for the month of February, we're quite a bit high on the percentage collected for revenue overall as a county. However, we've had a lot of transfers this year. We've had over $54 million in transfers. So if you take the transfers out of the equation on the revenue and expenses, you're sitting at about 31 and 55%. So still very good, still really well under budget and over collected on the revenue. For general fund, we've collected about 86% of our total revenue. And for general fund expenses, obviously we should be around 67% for the month of February. As you could tell, almost every single department is well under that 67%. There are a few exceptions, like our insurance department where we pay our county insurance out of our transfers, and fire service was a little bit over only because they had carryover from last year for their radio tower stuff, so that budget adjustment is included in the resolutions that you guys are going to be approving. But other than that, all the departments have been well under budget. Again, it says that we're 91% expensed. However, majority of that are our transfers. As you can see, we have $41 million in transfers in general fund. So if you take the transfers out, we sit at about 55%, which is well under that 67% mark. For our road funds, they're at about 84% collected in revenue. The majority of this revenue that still needs to be collected is from Lee County and our agreement with them for Red Campbell Road. We've been billing them as fast as Jason's been completing it. We just got a $1 million check in the mail yesterday, so we do plan on receiving the rest of that money this fiscal year. And for the expenses, he is at about 47% spent. However, majority of that 17 million is encumbered, and he does plan on spending the majority of that by the end of the fiscal year.
And we sat down with him and went over that in detail as we were going through the next year's budget process, so we knew where we stood at the end of this year.
Right. So with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Are there any questions?
No.
Having no questions, I'll entertain a motion that we approve budget versus actual February revenue and expenses.
So moved.
Motion and a second, please call for vote.
Beard,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Cordova,
Yes.
Henry,
Yes.
McCutcheon.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
The next item on the agenda is the Vaccine Project Recovery Grant. Ms. Jennifer Armendariz, is Jen in the foyer? If not, I'll represent this. Basically, there's a grant opportunity to help us recover some of the monies expended associated with vaccinations and efforts in the county. So we'd like your approval to proceed with that grant, trying to recover what we can. There's Ms. Jennifer here. She's on the line, so if you have any questions, we can coordinate that way, but there are several available depending on what you're doing, how you're doing it, and so we're just trying to recoup some of the monies that we've expended and trying to help the vaccination process.
Any questions?
No.
No questions? Okay. We have a motion, we approve it. Okay. We have a motion and a second. Please call the vote.
Beard,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Cordova,
Yes.
Henry,
Yes.
McCutcheon.
Yes. Keep it up, Jennifer. She's doing good.
Next item is the Faro 3D scanner, and I don't know if this probably isn't an upgrade for Captain Hutchison, but
He looks a little different.
He does.
He's a little under the weather. He's delicate. Good morning, Commissioners, Mr. Chairman. We have been evaluating our budget as we're getting closer to the end of the year, and obviously there's a lot of areas where I wouldn't say over budgeted, we were anticipating a normal year, and like travel and training, we didn't spend a lot of money out of there. And so we started looking and saying, well, are there things that we really need and to use some of this surplus for? One of those things is this Faro 3D scanner. We've been wanting one of these for quite a while. We wanted them back when they were $150,000, but we just really didn't have we didn't see spending that kind of money when we had other things we needed to do. We've been dependent upon strangely enough, Artesia PD has one, and we've utilized theirs a couple of times. Carlsbad Police Department has one, and we hired their operator, so we have her working for us now, so we need a piece of equipment for her to operate. What this thing does is the cost savings is incredible, and the efficiency level is incredible, because what this thing will do, we could sit it right in the middle of this room, and the operator, someone far more intelligent than I, can do all these certain things with it, and it will scan the entire room, and it will plot it out with distances and heights and all these. It's a 3D It makes a 3D image of everything. So when we have a homicide, when we have a violent crime that we really need to have a reconstruction on, this thing will recreate the entire scene, kind of like what you see on CSI, which most of that stuff is garbage and it doesn't work like that, but this actually does. It's an incredible piece of technology, and the fact that we do a lot of strong arm negotiations with these companies, and that's how we're able to get these prices down to where we can afford them. So we looked but we're not asking for any money. This is money we have in our budget. We're just wanting to move some around and out of some areas where we didn't spend the money and purchase this piece of equipment. And it's going to be a big benefit to us. We're looking at a couple of other items. We're going to have to talk to Roberta about it. We probably need a vehicle after our build date is still June for our Tahoes that y'all have already approved for us, and we really need a unmarked vehicle for Captain Martinez now that he's back from his injury. So we're going to see if we can dig out a little bit more maybe to get a vehicle. But this right here, we definitely have, and we are definitely in need of this asset. So I'm open to any questions that you might have of it, and would appreciate your approval of the budget adjustment.
Any questions?
Does it like fit in a vehicle? Is it a big piece of equipment?
It is, and we're going to do some changing with vehicles as well. Captain Hutchison actually drives a 3/4 ton pickup truck that we're going to move over. We're going to put a box on it to be able to keep this piece of equipment and all the other crime scene. We're really proud of where our crime scene processing has gone with the hiring of our new employee. She's a certified deputy, but she can still go out in the field. That's her job, is to process. So we're going to get her set up in this vehicle and with a big box on it that is just our own crime scene team, where we can become a little more independent of the state police and other agencies helping us out.
Great.
Good. Questions? Okay. Having no questions, I will entertain a motion that we approve the Faro 3D scanner budget adjustment for the sheriffs. I'll make that motion. Having a motion and a second, please call for the vote.
Beard?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Cordova?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
Hessel?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sheriff.
And I'm definitely an upgrade for Bob. So
Know him all. Take a vote on that.
So the next item on the agenda is the grant award, Region 6 Drug Task Force Administration, Vegas Valley Drug Force Task Force.
This is our yearly grant approval. We certainly do appreciate Lee County doing the heavy lifting with the HIDA grant for Region 6. This is our portion of it, including the $101,000 is the administration budget, which is what Bobby uses, and that's what he funds my travel for all the HIDA meetings out of. Also his and my travel and the expenses for his assistant. The $388 is what we get to operate our drug task force, and as a matter of fact, Bobby and I will be traveling next week for the first and forever face-to-face meeting, HIDA Executive Board and Budget Subcommittee meeting, and it's actually the actual budget meetings for the year, the annual budget meetings. So, and there's actually some baseline money on there, so I'm hoping that I might be able to up our numbers a little bit, get us a little bit more money to operate our drug task force, because we've seen a big uptick. If you folks don't see the numbers, haven't seen the numbers, but I'll make sure Bobby gets them to you. Our drug task force is amazing. They're bringing down record amounts of dope and putting bad guys and girls that need to be in jail. So this is just an approval of, I mean, it's the easiest approval ever. It's giving us money.
This is the umbrella agreement for the overall, and then there's some sub-agreements in the resolution and agreement consent agenda that filter under that
Yes, yes.
for particular dispersions.
Have any questions? No? Having no questions, I'll entertain a motion that we approve G21SN0017A Grant Award Region 6 Drug Task Force Administration, PEGS 5 Drug Task Force.
So moved.
Second.
Having a motion and a second, please call for the vote.
Gary,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Cordova,
Yes.
Henry,
Yes.
McCutcheon.
Yes. I like these motion-making teams we have.
I noticed
Yeah.
You know, like this is, you guys are really snappy today.
Sure.
It's really,
y'all.
really good.
You must have secret language going back and forth on your turn.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Next item on the agenda is the resolution and agreement consent agenda.
Do you have any questions or items to pull, discuss for the resolution and agreement consent agenda? Okay, having none, I'll entertain a motion that we approve the resolution and agreement consent agenda as presented.
It's our turn, so I'll make that motion.
Having a motion and a second. Okay, all right, please call for the vote from.
Beard,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Cordova,
Yes.
Henry,
Yes.
McCutcheon.
Yes.
All right, the next item on the agenda then are department updates. Here comes finance.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. I just wanted to introduce the county's new procurement manager. Her name is Alicia Serna, and she comes to us from the city of Carlsbad. I just wanted to introduce her to y'all.
Welcome.
So, did you put the stay here requirements in that?
Pretty much, I told her she's here for at least, 5 years.
You got it off easy, I voted for 10, but welcome.
Thank you.
Good to have you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Here comes HR manager, Miss Roxanne.
Good morning, Commissioners. I wanted to present this award. It's the award we got it for our 4th consecutive year and decreasing our work comp and law enforcement claims. So here, this is for you guys. And then I also want to make this statement. We're doing our CPR training and defensive driving classes. And I'd like to remind our elected officials and department heads to please get your employees in for the classes if you haven't already got them signed up.
When is that going to be, Roxanne?
It's been going this month, and we
Okay.
have a couple of more classes coming up, and then that will be at Charlie. If
Okay.
she schedules anymore. We've done it all last month,
Okay.
4 days ago.
Is it open to the public or just like county personnel?
That would be at Charlie. We have done some public people. They've asked, and we brought them into the class, so she has no issue with that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Roxanne.
Thank you, Roxanne.
Other department updates? Warden's nodding no, and I know fire services, just know, Mr. Mack is out with the fire marshal. We're doing the ISO audits this week, and so they've been busy between brush fire, structure fires, and other elements. It's been a busy couple of weeks for the fire services group, so we appreciate that.
Gonna get back.
Anything else? If not, we'll move to legislative updates.
Well, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners,
Jerry?
today. Yeah, I'm smiling. Got through the general, got through the special. I was relaying to Jerry, the other Jerry, the pretty Jerry back there, about what to give as a report today. It's been very interesting to try to break this thing down. It was a long 60-day session, we all know. There were about 900 pieces of legislation, and what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to give you the general, and then we'll kind of break into the special session. And I'll try to keep it short and then give you a further condensed version of that once the governor decides what she's going to do with the legislation, if that's okay with you. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. And I'll try to run through some of the things here that are still pending and some of the things that have already been taken care of. So I mentioned there's about 900 pieces of legislation that were introduced during the general session. 158 bills of that 900 were sent to the governor's desk for her signature. Governor has signed, as of this morning, had to update because I did not update because as I was coming up here, one got signed. She's signed 68 of those bills so far. On Monday, yesterday, she signed 50 bills. So she's got her pen hot and heavy, and she's getting after it. Among those that we saw yesterday was Senate Bill 32, which posed a ban on trapping on public lands. Highly controversial bill, received lots of discussion. She also signed several education bills yesterday. HB 6 will provide $60 million in federal impact aid money to school districts, with a large amount of that going to tribal lands and tax-exempt land districts. The state had previously blocked some of those funds from reaching these intended targets, but now this bill will allow that money to proceed forward. Senate Bill 17 yesterday also provides $17 million to schools serving low-income families. So there's a lot of money out there that's going to our education and going to folks that probably need it. The budget, of course, was passed as $7.4 million budget, which was really passed pretty smoothly, smoother than most anything, I think, in the legislative session, which was good, considering all things that have happened. I think Eddy County, and depending on what the governor decides at the end, she has not signed this bill yet, but that $74 million budget went through very smoothly. Very little discussion, thankfully, for our part of the state, which has continued during these tough times to provide the state with money. That was discussed a lot during the session, as always, about how much money that oil and gas does generate. So also Senate Bill, there was a lot of bills that were passed that are forming committees. This was a session of committees. One time, Senator Munoz made the comment that if you don't want a committee, you just need to raise your hand because there's plenty to go around. Committees to study committees, I said. She has until Friday, the governor does, to sign or veto any bill that's sitting on her desk. So it will be very fast and furious this week and what happens. The governor signed Senate Bill 34 this morning as I was on my way up, which was a good bill for us. It's a bill that actually provides design and build project funding for road projects. It changes the procurement code. It permits DOT to use design and build for projects which might exceed $50 million without federal money going toward those projects. So before it had pretty tight sideboards on it. I personally helped lobby every transportation bill that DOT had up there this year. We were successful in getting all those bills across. So hopefully that's going to free us up. We do have a great, thanks to Wes and others, we have a very great relationship with the DOT at this time, fortunately. And so hopefully through all of that, the governor, once she signs those bills, it makes me feel a lot better, because I know that some folks from just discussions within the committees always brought up the fact that, we need money in our district. How much money is going to Southeast New Mexico? Oh, we realize they need it down there. They generate a lot of funds. But we need money for our roads too. So there was some controversy around that. I'm not going to run through the list of all the other bills that are sitting in front of the governor right now. I think that would be boring. And we don't know what she's going to do. I can say some more positive things about our legislators. Our legislators fought hard this year. They fought very, very hard. And being the underdogs, I question myself many times as I sit up late at night watching those folks debate bills and run the clock and present amendments to bad bills and try to get things turned around. They fought hard. They did. And unfortunately, because of the numbers, they lost a lot. They lost a lot of things, and they didn't get many things changed because the minds were made up, and that's the way it happened. We know HB 4, very controversial bill, the Civil Rights Bill, worst piece of legislation ever passed that went through our legislature this year. It's been sent to the governor, but she hasn't signed it. What's she going to do? There's a lot of controversy out there still, whether or not she might not even sign this bill because it was so controversial. We know that we had, I think it was Senate Bill 376, because 375 was the law enforcement bill, right? Those were too close and I always got them confused. 376, there was another bill that had to do with taking away the qualified immunity. Okay, it didn't go forward, and we heard Senator Cervantes when he was lobbying that bill say that once House Bill 4 went through, it had to have Senate Bill 375 to give it strength, and it didn't go through. The college bill, we know it's gone to the governor's desk for the Carlsbad College. What's going to happen with that bill? There's a lot of controversy around that. She loves NMSU. Is this taking something away from NMSU if she signs it? So the governor's still holding up the end on some of those things. Any questions about the general? I'll jump right over into the special. Special session, interesting. You saw my reports I sent out to you, and I'm just going to kind of highlight those right quick. Not a lot's changed because things have not been signed, and the governor has until April the 30th to sign those. The fee bill went through for the session. It was very interesting because normally a fee bill only provides monies to fund a legislative session. This one included $6.9 million to help fund the cannabis transition. Okay, it passed very quickly. We also saw House Bill 2, the cannabis bill. A lot of things happened with the cannabis bill. Debated long and hard. And that bill was 179 pages long. And I have a confession to make. I didn't read it all. I think I understood what was happening. And it was allowing anyone over the age of 21 to use and grow cannabis up to a certain amount. Retail sales are not supposed to start until are supposed to start by April the 1st of next year in 2022. There's a lot of work to be done between now and April of getting all the regulations and rules and permits and paperwork, a tremendous amount of paperwork to be filled out for people who are going to try to grow and sell marijuana. It's always easier for me to say marijuana than cannabis. I don't know why, but it is. I guess that's maybe my own law enforcement. I don't know. I could say that, but I didn't. But at the same time, there's a lot of work to be done. I thought it was very interesting, and we looked at the LFC reports and estimates, and I passed that information along to you. And I kept trying to find out if I was wrong. I haven't found out yet, and maybe you can tell me if I am. $73,627,000, $627,900 is what they estimate that marijuana is going to bring to the revenues of the state in a 3-year cumulative amount. Okay? Now,
What were those numbers one more time?
$73,627,900.
In 3 years?
3 years.
So like 24,000 a year? 24 million a year?
25 million.
Or it gets better, and tight.
Okay, all right.
So I just want to bring this up just for a moment because I've tried to put some things in perspective as I got my head around. We heard 100 million, did we not? Yeah. And that was kind of what was touted. We laughed at that number. I laughed at that number.
We also heard 300.
We also heard 300 million, and it went to 100 million, and then we were gonna save the world, and because that way we could do away with oil and gas, and this is gonna pay for all the education in New Mexico. A day before, or two, before that bill was passed, New York passed their bill to legalize marijuana. Did anybody see what that was gonna generate? $350 million, $355 million. Last time I checked, I'm pretty sure, that New York State still has a substantial more citizenship than the state of New Mexico. Just a tax, okay? The city has more people in it than New Mexico. And so here's 3 times the amount. My number, 100 million. Their number, 300 million. Theirs is going to be 3 times more than ours, and yet their population is so much bigger. Somebody's numbers are off. Now, I don't know if New York's numbers are off or our numbers are off, but my common sense artesian high school math tells me something's off. Okay? So that's why I guess we're down to 73 million now. Yes. The number that was very alarming to me, along with the 6.9 million that was allocated during the feed bill to help administer the new Cannabis Regulation Act, was when I looked there for the cumulative 3-year administrative costs from our state to take care of all this. $60,136,500 to administer a $73 billion income in revenue. I look at that, and the first question that I ask myself is, these legislators that were so intent in making our governor happy about this bill, did they not read the FIR? I mean, I don't understand the reasoning by it. If we take my own personal feelings for marijuana out of the picture, and we just look at the numbers and the money and the estimates, I don't understand why we put so much hoopla around a net revenue of $13,491,400 cumulative over 3 years. Go back to my artesian math, high school math, it was about $4 million a year. Net. Net.
But you didn't use Common Core when you went to school. That was years ago.
And thank you, Mr. Chairman, it may be new math and I'm missing something.
Yeah, you've really.
But I keep going back to that, wondering if I missed something, and if I do, I'll correct it and apologize. Only thing I had to go off of were those estimates that came out of the Legislative Finance Council, okay? I hope they're right in one sense, because I hope it doesn't cost us more than what they're predicting. That's the, and I didn't even have my mouth never moved, and I didn't have my hand, and he said it. But I believe it will. And I always try to, I'm a facts guy, kind of black and white on some things, but I look at what's happened to other states that have legalized marijuana, and I see what happens to them, and if we're running this tight of a margin of estimate on this, it scares me. It scares me where we're going with our state. And the thing that I see is that hopefully it doesn't cost us more. But even if the way this thing was pushed and the numbers that were put out there to get so-called support, and listening to the testimony and the twisting of numbers, it was almost as bad as House Bill 4. And I'm not sure. We know that House Bill 4 is going to cost us, let's see here, it's going to increase the suits against public by 35%. It's going to double the cost of civil rights suit. It's going to increase the cost of defense of these suits by 35%. Increase attorney fees by approximately $500 million. Why do we keep passing things that cost our state money?
Because that right there, attorney's fees, $500 million, who are the legislators?
And so those are the things that I heard people say. We're the poorest state in the union, and we keep passing legislation that's gonna cost us money and hurt our economy. Thank God for oil and gas, amen? I mean, that's what we have to look at. All right, enough of my speech. Senate Bill 1, let's talk about something good. That was the LEDA changes. And Senate Bill 1 expands LEDA to allow for permanent mechanism for tax revenue sharing for certain new large projects which total $350 million or more. Hopefully this will attract some new industry into here, okay? This was a bill that was co-carried by Senator Ron Griggs out of Alamogordo, and he did a great job. It got very good support, some tongue-in-cheek support, because we always are kind of scared about sharing money when people are trying to attract business and who else has their hand in that pocket. And there was a lot of discussion about that on both sides of the aisle about this bill, making sure that there were no conflict of interest. They've heard it, because legislators this year, I heard more than ever say, I just want to make it clear I have no interest in this bill. That scares you when they say that, but they did say that a lot. So the handwriting has been on the wall about that. Senate Bill 2 was also a great bill that was passed, helping cannabis, marijuana. It's the expungent bill. Expungent, meaning that it would allow expungement of certain prior misdemeanor convictions from a person's criminal record involving cannabis, which might otherwise prevent them of gaining gainful employment for a position. So they can take all that off. It's going to be legal now. Take that away.
And that's retroactively for 4 years, is that what it was?
I think that's correct.
So just because it was a criminal act, and you knew it was a criminal act, you did it anyway, because we've decided in the future to say it's okay. So if they change the speed limit, you need to go get your ticket expunged. You know, I mean, it's the same philosophy. Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. We know. I appreciate those comments, but at the same.
Does everybody get a ticket if the speed limit's increased?
The thing that we have to put in perspective here, and kind of move back on a little bit more serious note, is when someone is employed and they come to work and they have been impaired by marijuana, okay? These type of things that we're seeing passed here with House Bill 4 and things like that, these civil rights actions and things, it's going to make things a lot more challenging for public government agencies and entities of trying to enforce rules and regulations, because a lot of these folks are going to be in fear of these lawsuits and the settlements that we'll see out of those. We just keep adding fuel to the fire for these type of actions that take place within our government agencies. And when I say government agencies, let's don't forget our school systems, because it also applies. Okay? So schools and things like that, it's going to make it even more challenging to bring enforcement against individuals who may be impaired by these new legalized drugs, marijuana, and to do that in an efficient manner, fear of being sued. Okay? So, film at 11. It hasn't been signed. I think the cannabis bill will be signed. The governor is pretty proud of that one. HB 4, Civil Rights Act, hasn't been signed. But if it is, I can tell you, insurance rates for the county, for cities, municipalities, school systems will go to the roof. As you saw this morning in our budget, we're blessed in Eddy County. There's a lot of places that aren't. They will be out of law enforcement business. They may be out of business on a lot of other things too. Okay? And who's going to take that over? That was a question that was asked. Ignored, but asked by people on the other side of the aisle who voted for these bills. I watched it. Okay? Unfortunately, I watched too much of it. But it was, it's interesting. Interesting. Good news. I want to finish on a good note. I always try to finish on a good note. All of the oil and gas bills that we saw there did not see the light of day. They still understand where their money comes from. There were some bad bills that came up, the bad bills died. Some of them have made it to the floor and died. We saw Senate Bill 82, the Holtec bill that we've been fighting for the last couple of 3 years. We call it the Holtec bill. It's a radioactive task force. It made it to the floor again. Didn't see the light of day. Made it to the floor last year. Didn't see the light of day. There were a few climate change bills, emission things that made it through. Governor's not signed any of those that I'm aware of right now. But oil and gas survived. But as Mr. Davis said in his, so eloquently in his, in the video, if you've seen that he made, is that it just gives us a bad name. Because companies see these things keep coming up, and eventually something will happen, or the fear of something will happen. So it hurts business. It hurts businesses with that uncertainty of regulatory certainty that they need to bring their businesses here to operate. And so those things keep happening. I so appreciate Eddy County and what we're doing right now in spreading that message out there to other parts of the state and letting folks hear what we mean to the state. It's getting an ear. People are hearing it. And so between now and next January and during all of the interim committees this year, hopefully that message will become even louder. But, we have redistricting coming up this year. I'll be working on that. That's my new project for the next few months. Redistricting will be happening in interim committees. There was some legislation passed to try to help that. The unfortunate part of it, the thing is it's passed, if the governor signs it, redistricting, and how that will be a committee formed to look at redistricting and try to get a less partisanship type of a redistricting program in society. They'll bring that up and it'll all get done. The thing that we still have to understand and worry about is the legislature has the final say on redistricting, regardless of what the suggestions might be. But it is hope out there that it's going to bring some of this gerrymandering, take it out of the process and bring things more forward to get a fair redistricting. And hopefully it'll work out good for us. But that will be by the end of the year, maybe before. That's really still up in the air. Any questions?
We can ask questions here? Yes. I have questions. I think you were too nice. So you ended on a good note. I think it's the most disgusting legislative session I've ever seen in my entire life. Now, on the marijuana bill, the questions I have, and I think I'm pretty close to correct, but tell me if I'm wrong. Cervantes did an amazing job, as much as I disagree with him on so many things. He did an amazing job of destroying this marijuana bill, pot bill, whatever you want, weed, whatever. He destroyed it. You said a 21-year-old and older, it's legal to smoke pot. What's the penalty for an 18-year-old or younger? There's no penalty.
There's no penalty.
There's absolutely no penalty. You've got to go to a 4-hour class and take 4 hours community service. That's your penalty. That's your incentive to not smoke dope. They said right there, if you're caught on the football field watching the game, what's your penalty? That's what they said. So I immediately sent a message saying, I haven't got an answer and I'd love to have an answer, but to Senator Gallego saying, explain that to me. So can a school expel a student now if they have marijuana in class? And I don't have that answer. But the way they described it that day, no. So there's absolutely no incentive to not try marijuana. At least you have an incentive to not drink under 21, because you can actually have something on your record, and there's something to make you stop. There's absolutely no penalty. If you're a bad guy and you want to grow 100 acres of marijuana and you let your 17-year-old grow it, what's the penalty? 4 hours of class and 4 hours of community service. That's your penalty. That's a joke. We're asking kids to now do it because you know the bad guys. Correct me if I'm wrong, Sheriff. Are there bad guys out there that are going to utilize that as a way in?
Of course they are.
Of course they are. We're not stupid. He absolutely destroyed this bill as a Democratic senator, and other Democrats were right there with him, and we passed it anyways. Why? Because our governor loves it. And it's disgusting to me that marijuana was going to become legal. I don't think any of us were disputing that. My problem is, and my anger level is, we have now set children up to fail in a state where we're already failing. We just earned, and Cervantes said this too, the distinguished badge of having the most DUI deaths. That just came out recently, apparently. I didn't
Moving
know
back
that.
up the ladder, yes.
So we're right there at number one again. And now we're gonna pass, and that's what his point. Now we're passing another substance. We don't even have a handle on what we've got. Now we're putting more in the fire. And out of that feed bill, we gave the police, we did give them a ton of money, $750,000. That's gonna train every officer in the state of New Mexico and get them the equipment they need to test drivers who are impaired. This was a disgusting session that did nothing to further our children when they're already behind with the corona, having been out of school. The truancies are up. If you look at Colorado, Cervantes, I shouldn't say Cervantes, I think it was Cervantes, could have been Pirtle, showed truancies in Colorado and how they went up overnight. Showed how hospital visits went up overnight. And everyone says, oh, you can't OD on marijuana. I don't know if that's true or not, never done it, don't care. The hospital visits went up because you had a bunch of yahoos that tried it for the first time, freaked out, and went to the hospital. That's a fact. That's what they showed. We're going to overwhelm, so flatten the curve so we don't overwhelm the system, but let's pass dope. Great plan. I'm so disappointed in the bill that came through. I love the amendments that they tried to push on, and not one amendment that was a great amendment didn't get listened to. And these are Democrats making the amendment. It just wasn't Republican amendments. It was they own it. The Democratic Party owns this, and our governor owns it. So anything that comes out of it, anybody that thinks that the Democratic Party and our governor doesn't own the problems are sadly mistaken. Because there were some great amendments that would have helped this bill. I gave in to the fact that it was going to be legalized a long time ago. It was coming. But I think the Democrats that fought on the floor for us, the Republicans we knew were going to fight, but there was a number of Democrats on the floor fighting to make this a bill that could possibly not hurt New Mexico the way this bill is going to hurt. And I'm beside myself. I don't want my son to come back to the state of New Mexico for that very reason. There's no incentive for these young people to not do it. You gotta go to a 4-hour class and 4 hours of community service. Seriously, if you get busted. That's it. I know I shouldn't be on the soapbox because I've got something else to say later, but, well, I'll just say it now so I don't have to talk later, then y'all can skip me. But in the liquor ball, I think it's fascinating that we took away the mini liquors because that's what, I think it's nicest. Very important. I'm really proud of that, right? Because that's why people were drinking in the car. They bought minis, and that was their reasoning. They drink minis in cars. Marijuana's totally cool. We're good with that. But let's make sure you don't get a mini. Now you got to go buy a bottle to drink in your car. The minis, those were the bottles. So we have solved DUI, hopefully, with banning minis. But now we've introduced marijuana, and now we can deliver the bottle to your house so that you don't have to drive and get it. That might help too. So, a disgusting session. We did nothing to further New Mexico, and I'm just really upset how bad it's going to affect the kids of New Mexico. If you're 21 and you want to smoke dope, go for it. You're old enough to make that decision. But these young kids, there's going to be nothing to slow them down. And I'm just really...
The marijuana slows them down.
Yeah, that's probably true. They'll be a lot slower. So, I don't know. I'm just beside myself. I'm sorry to take up so much time, but I think those are important points in this bill. And they did not allow cities and counties to opt out. That amendment, I don't know how many times tried to get pushed through. They shot it down every time because their little number of 76% in New Mexico wants marijuana. Well, if you remember the state of the state when you and I sat there, the governor touted 86% the year before. So that if that's true, it dropped 10. But a lot of the other polls are showing 50-50. The state isn't overwhelmingly in support of this like they say they are. It depends on, just like, well, the assessor said, you can play with numbers. Numbers are easy to play with. So, very, very upset. I think it's going to hurt the kids of New Mexico, and she owns it.
Commissioner Henry, I'd like to just kind of capitalize on your comment just shortly, but putting it kind of in perspective, and what I said is that they didn't allow, there was numerous times, as Commissioner Henry, that they tried to offer an amendment to allow counties, municipalities, or whoever to opt out of this, and it was shot down. But yet, they allow counties, municipalities to opt out of having drilling of oil wells and fracking. But they won't allow us to opt out of having marijuana, illegal drugs in our town, and legalization of these type of drugs. But a lot of counties have moratoriums. They don't allow drilling or fracking in their counties. So that's awesome. Anything else? Thank you. You bet.
Next item on the agenda is the travel consent, request consent agenda. We don't have any emergency business. Are there any legislators and elected officials that would like to speak?
Sure. You know I always will. To talk about some of the other issues, SB 375, that was one of the law enforcement bills that actually, it had some good and some bad points. Bad part was, this bill was put, I hate to even say this, but it sounds like the New Mexico Municipal League might be broken. There's no more communication between them and us, the NMC. And the Bill Fulgenetti's death, I think, may have really, we knew it was going to hurt. But this was their bill. We had no communication with them about this bill. One of the things this bill does is it abolished the New Mexico Law Enforcement Academy Board as we know it and changed it into two separate boards. Well, one of the things it did was the Law Enforcement Academy Board decides on curriculum for the Law Enforcement Academy, for ongoing training, decides on disciplinary for people's certifications, law enforcement officer certifications for disciplinary problems, because we have to forward certain ones up there for them to look at. Even if we discipline them ourselves, they sometimes will give they'll suspend a certification, a law enforcement certification. This one changed, and there used to be a sheriff on there, of course appointed by the governor, but still, Adon Mendoza, the Santa Fe sheriff, he catches a lot of crap. He's a good guy, and he really has done a good job on that board. There's a police chief, the state police chief, there's a tribal police chief, there's an attorney. That's how it was. And they were struggling. They had a lot of backlog on disciplinary. But here's the problem is they did away with that board. They changed it. So the new one, the new LEA board is the academy director in Santa Fe, which a bunch of us have a big problem with her. She's out of touch and we don't like what she's doing. The academy board, or the academy director that we like, Walt Colburn in Hobbs, because he services us, he works for us. And then the attorney general, who was the chair of the original board, he's the chair of that board as well now. But all they're going to look at is curriculum. That's all. They don't deal with the disciplinary. So there's going to be a certification board as well. And that's where at least the Mexico Municipal League gives a little favor there. They left in there a position, because this board says, originally it said a retired deputy, a retired police officer. And we're going, wait a minute, these are people who are going to make decisions on disciplinary that might second guess me as an executive? It's kind of weird. And so they ended up changing some of that, but it's retired police officer of sergeant level or above, a retired deputy sergeant level or above. One of the things they left on there was an appointee by the New Mexico County's executive director. So guess what? There's going to be a sheriff on that board. And because I already told Steve, I said, I want on that board. And he said, oh yeah, you're definitely going to be on that board. I don't think that's going to make people in Santa Fe very happy, but at least we're going to get that out of it. So they've changed up our boards. And another part of it is that if you are, and they don't specify whether it's on duty or off duty, if you are ever convicted of any crime as a law enforcement officer involving illegal use of force, now that could vary from not even physical force, right, Cass? I mean, we have use of force could be a show of force. To physical force, whether on duty or off duty, unless somebody defines this, the board, the certification board, shall, it uses the word shall, and that's a very specific legal term, shall permanently take away the certification of that law enforcement officer. You will never be, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. So that's kind of scary right there. I don't know where that's going to go. That's a really bad one. But I guess the good part about it is, I don't know if that's covered by HB4. Maybe we can sue them if something goes wrong with that. I don't know. But the really good part about that bill, though, and I do have really good news about that bill, is our Law Enforcement Protection Fund. We usually get about $52,000 a year, I think it is. Right, Kim? About $52,000, $54,000 to buy equipment, training, all that stuff. It looks like with the new dispersal, we're going to get about $100,000. So that's nice. And so some of that equipment, like the Pharaoh that we're going to get, we'll be able to purchase some of that stuff because we get $1,000 per certified deputy, and we get a baseline of about $45,000, where we used to get about $24,000 baseline and $600 per deputy. So that's a big plus. We've been fighting for that for a long time. They slid it in there. I don't know who did that, but I appreciate it because nobody was willing to do that before. So we got that done. The anti-trapping, I've spoken to the McCutcheon Senior at length about this. And there's a lot of ranchers that are very distressed over this anti-trapping on public land. And New Mexico County is well aware of it. I've put them on it. We're going to try and get some clarification, maybe figure out some kind of relief. I don't know that's going to happen. This is woke people going, oh, those poor little animals, they're just being so mean to them. Well, of course, your dad has some great pictures of calves that have been mauled by coyotes, and what are you supposed to do about it? We can't trap them now.
Picture of the cow. It's got 2 bloody spots where her ears used to be. I was on my phone from last week.
And you know, and Steve talked to me, and he goes, would it help to send? I said, it's not going to help. We've done it. We've given them those pictures. They don't care. They do not care. They see Wile E. Coyote, and they see that's how these folks see it. They live in a city. They don't live they don't live in a rural area, and it's once again rural versus urban. I mean, they see what's best for us. So we're gonna struggle with that. As far as the marijuana thing goes, the bottom line is this. Honestly, I don't care if people want to smoke dope. I don't care anymore. I really don't care. I'd honestly rather deal with someone who's stoned than someone who's drunk, because weed is a depressant, alcohol is a stimulant. People who are drunk, you never know what they're going to do. They become violent very quickly. So honestly, that's not the big deal for me. I agree wholeheartedly with what Commissioner Henry said about our children, because I have I've got a whole passel of grandkids that are growing up in New Mexico, and I worry about that because, shoot, it was all over the place in the 70s and 80s when it was illegal, and we were scared to death of the cops and everybody else, but we still found it. So now it's going to be legal, and the potency is so much stronger. I worry about that. But the bottom line is, it is still a Schedule I narcotic. Whether you agree with that or not, whether folks agree that it has medical efficacy, and I think it does have a medical benefit, but it's still on the Schedule I for the federal, which means there is no use for it whatsoever. And that hasn't changed. And that's not going to change for a while. They're saying it's about 5 years out before the feds may change it. So we have all these problems that we're looking at are going to come up because it is still illegal federally. The banks can't take dope money because they're FDIC insured, right? So they can't do that. They're not allowed to do that. I was talking to Gene Dow on the radio. He cannot advertise for a weed dispensary because he has a federal licensing that he has to comply with. So those are the issues. You want to legalize dope, legalize it. Have fun, smoke it. That's great. Eat it, whatever it is. You know, the gummies or whatever. You know, all the different stuff that they have. But the problem is, it's still illegal federally, and it still has all these weird implications that we have to deal with. So that's my big concern personally. Smoke it, eat it, whatever you want to do. I'm cool with it. That's fine. But we put the cart before the horse once again in New Mexico because our governor wanted this, and I have to wonder exactly what the question you asked. Why? Is it a money thing? Well, it's not. It's definitely not a money thing for our state economy, right? Our state revenue. It's not. We know it's not. We can look at it. We did the numbers. Is it a money thing for individuals? Like HB4? HB4 is a money thing for individuals. Or is it for votes? Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. But I'm astounded by it, and I agree with Commissioner Henry. It was a disgusting session. I was in contact with one of the legislators up there constantly throughout the whole session, and it was just like, oh my God, this isn't working. Why is this not? Why aren't they listening? Why can't we do this? Why can't we? There's nothing happening. I brought this up. I was ignored. When called on by the speaker several times, that legislators didn't even get to speak. Legislators didn't even get to speak because the speaker wouldn't call on them. Mind you, we certainly didn't as the public. So it was very scary, and we set a very, very ugly and very frightening precedence in this legislative session, what was allowed to go on. I don't know how to stop it. People ask me, well, how do we stop it? Let's get armed up and go do it. No, that's not the answer. We can't do that. I don't know. Maybe y'all can come up with something. I know you're probably just beating your heads on the wall just like I am, and I'm preaching the choir here, but it's frightening what's going on in New Mexico right now. So we're going to keep plugging away here, and I'll tell you what, I God bless us here in Eddy County, Lee County, even Chaves County. I mean, we at least are trying to keep life the way we believe it should be. And I appreciate all of you fighting for that, and I'm going to continue to fight for it. So legislative session depressed me. It really did. It infuriated me. So we're going to keep going, though. We're doing some good things at the sheriff's office. I want to, again, like Jerry, I want to leave on a high note. You know, losing JD, we got 3 openings right now, which is phenomenal, actually, just having just 3 openings. Our boys in the academy are still number 1 and number 2 academically. That speaks to how well my folks prepared them to go there. And we're hoping that one of ours may even come out as valedictorian, which we're pretty confident that's going to happen. Went to the halfway meeting that we had with the board meeting and all that. And our academy is still working, doing a great job, and our folks are doing a great job. So if you see a deputy out, wave at them. They better wave back or I'll yell at them. And or if you see them out, please thank them. They're really doing a great job out there, as are you. So thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Sheriff. Are there any other elected officials or department heads? Or, I'm sorry, legislators. Seeing none, next item is county manager's comments. Just real briefly, as part of the legislative session, in the budget bill that was passed, there were monies earmarked for Brinewell project completion. Again, initially I was very reluctant, very resistant to agree to join that effort. Kind of at an 11th hour issue. Project was short $18 million estimated by ENMRD. We're already 50 million in. How do you need another 18? That's another story. But they only had $5 million earmarked at that point in the process. Special Zoom meetings were called, and because Secretary Sandoval, the Transportation Secretary, agreed to extend the apportionment of monies to the brine well from the excise tax for an additional year, that brought another $10 million to the table, to the 5 that came from the general budget and ENMRD. And so I acquiesced that I would bring the match portion for local governments to the commission, and I will in a subsequent meeting. There's $3 million match that the county and city of Carlsbad will have to come up with, $1.5 million each. But I didn't want to compromise the money that an MDOT had made available. And we reached out and thanked the Secretary for doing that. But I didn't want them to, I didn't want their effort and gesture to be unrecognized. So I'll bring material to you to talk to you about, get your discussion and consideration for that recommendation to match 1.5 million. That rolls into we're in the process of finalizing our draft budget for fiscal year 21-22. We will, and the departments have all done a great job. We will share with you a balanced budget draft in the coming weeks for your review and questions, feedback, and then we'll, I think, the desire from Ms. Roberta and myself is to bring you the budget for approval in the first meeting in May, commission meeting in May for approval. That's probably enough to say about that. We've used revenues, projections. I think we're going to we'll continue to accomplish the kind of things that we've been accomplishing. So we'll look forward to that. You may have seen, I published another email to all Eddy County employees. Again, yesterday we had another employee pass away over Easter, and just extend our sympathies to the family. And I got a note back from the assessor, and she said, "I'm not going to open any emails from you anymore. This is 3. Maybe just for all of our employees and all of our folks that are part of the county, do what you can, take care of yourself. The county has great benefits and insurance programs and policies and assistance programs, and we just need to take care of ourselves. And I'm not suggesting anything about any of the employees that have passed, but I think it's a responsibility that we should all take seriously, because health is something it's hard to claw back, and with all of the efforts that have gone on with the pandemic and whatnot, we just want to stay firm and steady in taking care of ourselves. So, as I mentioned to the assessors, I really appreciate all that's gone on this past year. It is a bit of a milestone, and from the clerk's office, the treasurer's office, the assessor's office, always open for service and business. Our facilities department with all of the things to take care of. Our road department, we shared some of those numbers of what's been done, what's to be completed in this fiscal year, and what we're looking to next fiscal year. I think several of the commissioners have mentioned, you see that visible outcome of that effort, and we'll continue that. Last item, I was requested to visit with the 3 district judges in Eddy County. That's something that you just, you know, you read. A rare treat. Yes, it was a rare treat. I've spent my life trying to avoid treats like that. When they call, you go though, right? They're the 3 judges, Judge Gray, Judge Riley, and Judge Reardon. The state has told them that Eddy County is eligible for a 4th district judge because of the number of filings that have occurred in the county, and their dockets are significantly higher per judge than anywhere else in the state. What they need from the county is the assurance that we can provide space for a 4th judge. At the moment, we barely have space for 1+. We've got 3 working, one really functional jury courtroom, but although we haven't had any jury trials because of the pandemic, but there's still a lot of activity, and some of that activity, you know, the domino effect with the detention, the warden has more folks staying overnight there because of the process to get those detainees pre-adjudication through the process. It's just difficult. So I've asked Brian, let's get the floor plans out and see what we can do. We might have to do some shifting, some rearranging, some storage of things off-site, but we'll look at that and then we'll bring it to the commission for your review and consideration about getting a resolution from the county to support a 4th district judge in any county. So we're working on that right now. So any questions, I'm happy to talk to you now or after the meeting, and we'll go from there. So thanks very much.
I just wanted to condolence to the county. You know, the passing of employees, it's a very difficult time for a lot of people. I believe that although may have been county hindered it and seeking those preventive care needs, I would really encourage everybody to get flexible with that. You know, take care of yourself. I share that message and also my condolences.
Commissioner Henry, anything else?
Yeah, but no, I think that everyone else said they're tough couple weeks. Those are shocking. And I know it's everyone else. So condolences, anything we do, let me know. And we're with.
As we said, we're trying to get the word out across the state. We have to do a fine job of trying to get it scheduled. The work scheduled to represent Dominic County, but I guess they chose not to hear us, so we got to get off that agenda. And so we're on possible other avenues, and so far we're on. Now we're off. We got to do it, and so that's the way it goes.
Yeah, great.
And so anyway, what can I do that? We appreciate that. Here.
Offer my condolences to the families that lost their voice. I'd like to thank Mr. Davis again for the Arrowhead study. You guys were putting it out, I think. And I said in the news, I think the way the Arrowhead study has been promoted, and you guys have been doing it around, probably contributed all of your previous oil and gas stuff. Seen light of day, I think it made a difference, and I think it's an ongoing deal. And as far as the no smoking bills, I think I can say that here. You're not supposed to ask a question you don't know the answer to, and I'm not. What state out of the 17 states that have already passed this can we go to? And their governor, their legislature, somebody stand up and say, this is a resounding success. We have money. It's good for our economy. It's good for our state. Can they point to that state anywhere? And so, there you go.
So we're talking just a little bit about session, and because I was thinking about commissioners up here, and I'll get to them to get that in just a second, but just to show the I guess juxtaposition of judgment, we had a poultry bill, which was SB 347, which essentially said that all poultry products must be caged. So any restaurants, any grocery stores, anything like that, they all have to be cage-free. So cage-free eggs, free-ranging, chicken wings, whatever, I don't know what the heck it is. So Buffalo Wild Wings, I guess, they're going to have to change a lot of what they do. But so we have that bill that says, and it didn't pass, but it was